And here we are. Great to be with everybody. Um, really grateful and appreciative to be here, and really grateful and appreciative for those of you who will be tuning in some later here and now. We're going to focus on talking about the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. We have some folks here that have seen it, seen some things in person, and we'll get their report. We'll tune into how we can support things there on a physical level. And then we'll get into some universal principles in these kind of situations that can be valid for all of us. And it's quite possible that all of us may be encountering these kind of situations in the near future. So we will be tuning in to how to handle these kind of situations. What are the lessons? What are the things to keep in mind? What are the things not to keep in mind? How does this kind of adversity support us on our spiritual journey of awakening? How can it be um, challenging for us on our spiritual journey of awakening? So we'll get into all this, and this is a space for dialogue and conversation. So you can raise your digital hand to contribute. You can write in the chat box, and why don't we start with you, Will? You're unmiked, and I know you were there for a few days in the Asheville area. I want to just kind of share kind of what you saw, what you think is valuable to for people to know about.
Yeah, hey you guys. I'm sorry that I'm outside. I'm not sorry that I'm outside, but my screen is a little shadowed. But um, yeah, I can share my story with everybody. Let's see, today is Thursday, so the storm was rolling in a week ago, last Thursday, and I was in Atlanta and planning to go to Asheville on Friday, but chose to stay in Atlanta Thursday night and woke up in the morning on Friday and started to become aware of how massive of a rainfall had occurred and the kind of flooding that was happening in Asheville. So I stayed in Atlanta on Friday and Saturday and kind of tuning into what actually was going on and made the decision to uh, buy a bunch of cases of water and some food and drive up to my roommates in Asheville on Sunday morning. And um, because I knew I had a place to go and I knew I had some people that I could help. I didn't
That's
really have a sense of what was going on, but I made the
all. Good night. No
decision,
fun today. That's all I got. No nap.
um, made that decision to go up there. So, um, it was all kind of normal driving out of Atlanta. When I got into South Carolina towards Greenville, uh, started encountering like no traffic lights, which is a different scenario, or no traffic, the traffic lights were out. So the traffic lights all become a four-way stop. And so I was kind of like driving up there, and then I started seeing no gas. And I had gotten gas, fortunately, in Georgia, but that was one thing I wasn't really aware of, realizing that gas would be an issue up in Asheville. Otherwise, I would have definitely filled up like 5-gallon gas cans in Georgia before driving to back up to Asheville. But I had some gas and I had my water and food and my love. And so I drove up there and got there Sunday afternoon. And my roommates have been working. My roommate's husband is an arborist, so they've been working pretty much nonstop since Friday, cutting trees away in primarily like Montreat and Black Mountain. But I got there, and so they were out, and I went and saw the river, and it was hard to describe, just still higher than anybody's ever seen it ever, and all over the French Broad Valley where the River Arts District is. And there's people walking on the bridge. I saw some friends, and we hugged and just, there's not much you can say. There was a really kind of honoring tone, everybody just witnessing something in nature that is sort of beyond words and comprehension, because that much rain and that much flooding hadn't ever been, or it's been at least 100 years since that occurred, 108 years exactly since the Great Flood of 1916, which rose the river in a similar tropical storm to unprecedented heights and like wiped out a lot of Asheville. Um, but yeah, I witnessed her, which I love the French Broads so much. I've hiked like every single tributary essentially that is in the national forest and to where the headwaters are, and the whole thing is so pristine. And it's shocking to see it in that capacity, but that's because, Asheville's not isolated. We're connected to the whole, everything's connected. So, the ocean can pick up massive amounts of water, and some parts of the Blue Ridge got up to 40 inches of rain, I hear, which over 2.5 days was just really
Water.
so every single tributary, every single crevice was completely flooded. And what that did is washed out so many roads that you just can't imagine. Washed out culverts, washed out things that you would think never would get washed out. Places that were never streams were like raging gullies. And I think the primary, like the the west side of Asheville got hit pretty hard. The east side of Asheville got devastated. Like on the Mount Mitchell side and the Burnsville and the Noachucky River headwaters over there, they I think even got stronger winds. Also Chimney Rock. Um, so when my roommates came back home on Sunday, they got a call from um, Andrew's or my roommate's husband's kiddos, and they needed some food and water. So because I brought some up, it was readily available. So we were able to take some to them and witness the power of the river along the Swannanoa, and it was just stunning. It's just an unprecedented, just trees down everywhere. Their road was washed out. There was trees down like on all the back roads that had been just like, single lanes cut through. So, from the moment that the storm ended, people started cutting their way out. But the amount of trees, like I wasn't really prepared for how many trees were knocked down by the winds. They were everywhere. And some places even worse than, others where it'd be just like 20 trees knocked down in a row. So trying to get out of your driveway or even walk around that is like super challenging. And so, and that's where a lot of people are, you know, uh, commending the folks that live in the country for being prepared, having chainsaws and just getting right to it and actually doing like an incredible amount of road work themselves. Because even for me to be able to get out to Swannanoa River Road on Sunday meant that, a lot of stuff had been cleared because right after the storm, it was inaccessible and half of their road was washed out. So we crept along the side, dropped off this food and water, went back, made dinner over a fire, which, is a unique experience because they didn't have cell phone service, water, power, and gas wasn't really available. So we gave the stove I had to this other family and just made dinner over the fire, which is great, if you like camping. And that's something I really value. So it's one thing that I feel like I bring to this situation is the awareness of the resources around us, be it fire, how to create shelter or camp, how to deal with our waste, how to potentially filter and find water, things like this. But I brought them a bunch of water, and that was helpful because, they were having to go to drop spots to get it at that point because it was cut off on Friday. So, um, that's a real stream of consciousness. But I appreciate y'all allowing a space for me to float out because it's a really different experience. It's different driving with no lights in the town. There's a huge sense of like community, just respecting each other to make that all operate. And then I ended up going down to Travelers Rest, South Carolina, driving from Asheville to South Carolina to purchase gas and diesel oil that they were needing to run chainsaws to cut trees off the top of houses. And then some of what I'm doing today is bringing back like tarps and different chainsaw tools to just keep aiding that mission because apparently up in the Swannanoa area, there's just about 1 million trees down. Also, I mean, not just there, Old Fort, all through there. So yeah, we're bringing a stove to cook some food, but I think a lot of Asheville is getting power back at this point. And the latest word is like Woodfin, where I have a room and have been with my roommates for many years, won't get water for like weeks because there was such damage done to the water line from the reservoir back to the village. So,
I wanted to hear
you
it.
know,
I'm hearing that the region won't get water for months. Jacob
wow.
can reflect on that too, but And the
That's
other thing,
really cool. Mandala Springs was talking about creating a train where they're filling up 5 gallons and taking them from Mandala, which has an incredible amount of water, back to town, which I think is just a cool thing to plug. They have donation things like on their social medias.
they can't get through yet, though, can they?
They've been cutting a path, but they've been hiking, and it's they're trying to make it an ATV path, and then start getting people water because that's one thing they have.
Mhm.
Um,
The other thing I wanted to if you know about too is my understanding that I don't know if I think it's still the case. Jacob, you can pop in here that you can only use cash, and because and you can't use debit cards or credit cards. Is that still the case?
I think that's changing. I've heard ATMs opening more readily, but yeah, that was the case on Sunday. I bought some food with cash. So all those things, yeah, you don't really think about like how valuable or, you know, in a case where power doesn't work. But Asheville was definitely shocked into that. And people were making it work surprisingly, like amazingly well by being good-hearted and patient with each other and getting food donated. And I see people just asking if people have food. And I talked to one of my best friends who said that like his heart is like filled up right now because it's like while a flood did occur, it's like people are also being flooded with love in terms of realizing their neighbors and having to work together and realizing how the quality of people all around them and how they have a shared purpose and that it feels good to share with each other and support each other and lift each other up. And so I really feel like that's the silver lining, and I see that from a lot of people, and it's pretty amazing. But it's also amongst a lot of grief and um, yeah, which is still kind of unfolding as people really dig themselves out from the weight of the storm is really, really incredible. So thank y'all for letting me share that and down to answer any questions. But it's an incredible experience, and the people in the mountains are amazing, and all the people helping are amazing, and God is good.
Jacob,
Amen to that. Yep.
tell us what you're seeing. Jacob's in the region now. He's been there. So tell us
Yeah.
what you're seeing. What's and to give us the latest too.
Okay. So, I can, I guess, start from the beginning, and really just kind of confirm what Will has said. We started getting rain here Wednesday. Um, the river started rising like
Follow me.
really
I need
high.
it quiet to listen. I can't have other noise.
Go ahead, Jacob. I got it.
Okay. Um, so Wednesday started raining. The river was coming up like really high Wednesday night, so high that Scarlett, my little 8-year-old, and I went on an adventure down to the river Wednesday night just to see how high it was. And already there were landslides on the road down to the river from my house. I live like 2 miles up from the river,
Wow.
and landslides already coming down in the road. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, like I've lived here my whole life and I've never seen landslides after a day of rain. So that tells you how much rain was falling
Yeah.
Wednesday. Um, we
It's
get
worth
down to
pointing
the,
out too that people all over the world or all over America for sure have moved to Asheville area because it's supposed to be a safe zone.
ah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, for sure. But like, dude, with that much rain, this was like the most dangerous. Like flooding happened here, like doesn't happen in other places because of all the mountains and all the hills and all the valleys and the place where all this water. I heard we had 40 trillion gallons of water in like less than 3 days. And to put that into perspective, that's, I believe, 619 days worth of what goes over Niagara Falls, like in 2.5 days. So, anyways, we get down to the river, and already there's landslides on the river road. We're having to go around. There's waterfalls coming out of the mountains, crossing the road. No culverts and no ditches. It's just going right over the road. And we got out with flashlights and looked at the river, and it was just crazy. So coming back home, I started thinking like, man, it might be a good idea to get a generator. Like this is this is going to be crazy. So we stopped at Lowe's and picked up a generator and came home, and it continued raining Thursday all day. And Haley and I were preparing to go up to Brian's for a retreat, a spiritual retreat that had been scheduled and planned. And so I went shopping to prepare for that with food, and feel like I was guided to buy a whole lot of extra food. I don't know why. We were going on this camping trip for 2 days, and I ended up buying probably between 15 and 20 pounds, and vegetables and supplies. And anyways, I'm just thinking it's rain. I'm thinking there's a lot of rain. There's probably going to be some trees that uproot and fall on power lines, and we could probably lose power. And Friday, so all this rain, my basement wall, my foundation wall has a crack in it where it's breached, and water had already come into my basement Wednesday. And I was really worried about the basement wall failing. So I'm up Friday morning, like 3 o'clock, going down there, checking on that. It's still just pouring the rain. Water's coming in my basement, filling it up. And I go back to bed, and about 5:30, I couldn't sleep. So I get on my phone and I start reading some messages or some posts from other people, from some friends. And they're saying like, you need to really brace for this. This is supposed to be like the 100-year storm, and it's going to be, worse than we've ever seen in Asheville. And then right about that time, I start dozing off. I put my phone down, start dozing off. And then the storm comes in, Helene comes in, and the windows just start shaking like they're going to be sucked out of the house. And I jumped up and was like freaked out. I said, Haley, you got to get up. The power was out at this point. She held the flashlight while I got my contacts in. I went outside and started, stuff was blowing all over the driveway, all over the yard, loud commotions. I checked on everything, and then got a text message from one of my neighbors saying that my greenhouse was flying around the backyard.
Oh,
And then a few minutes later, Haley's like, Jacob, the greenhouse is out in the middle of the road. And she ran out there with our neighbor and was trying to drag it back to the yard. And I was just like, no, like, this is a hurricane. Let it go. Like, anyways, we got through that. The storm continued. Trees are snapping, falling out, big branches. I mean, these big oak trees are just like laid over, just wind, like 70-mile-an-hour winds and all this rain. And cars are driving around, debris flying all over the place. Fortunately, it passed pretty quick, but it was still like 4 or 5 hours. And it's still really hard for me to like process and comprehend all of this. We went down to the river, down to Marshall, and Marshall was totally underwater, and the river's still rising. You see houses and sheds and big tanker trucks and huge like propane storage tanks, like the big ones, like 50 feet tall, just floating down the river.
I got a list of cities that are pretty much destroyed from the reports I have, and that would include Marshall, Lake Lore, Chimney Rock, Biltmore Village, Hot Springs, Old Fort, Spruce Pine. Those are some. Maybe Swannanoa. I'm not sure about Swannanoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Swannanoa got
Yeah.
nailed.
Definitely Swannanoa. So we're watching this
River
river.
Arts District. River Arts District.
Yeah. We're seeing a creek that is out in Marshall, and it's feeding down to the river. It's bigger than the French Broad River normally is. And this is just like a tributary that runs under a bridge across one of the highways out to Marshall. And I ran into a Marshall sheriff, and he said that a family was trapped in a whole house floating down the river, and they were screaming out the windows, like begging for help to be rescued, and just the whole house floating down the river with the whole family in it. Just devastation. Like nobody was prepared for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then later this evening, I thought about my friends out in Barnersville, and they live and have property right on a creek that's generally pretty heavy flowing year round. And I wanted to get out to them, and we started driving down the Barnersville Highway, and my heart started sinking, and I just started like weeping, like knowing what I was fixing to come up on. And they've worked hard getting this property ready over the past year. They were actually having their 1 year anniversary last weekend. Um,
Mosaic Mountain Village.
Mosaic Mountain Village. And the closer we got, I start thinking, well, all right, so the grade's going up a little. Barnersville, the whole place was like a river from mountain to mountain. The whole valley was just river. I mean, it was just wiped out, decimated, bridges wiped out, trees, huge trees just lining, homes knocked off their foundations, barns, barn roofs, barns just gone. The earth, the dirt was just gone. And it was just river rock, just bedrock. And I mean, like probably 6 or 8 foot, like just new banks, new river banks where the earth had just been wiped clean. And we start going up a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, well, we're gaining elevation. You know, maybe their place isn't wiped out. And anyways, we pull up on their place, and there's no access. Their bridges are gone. There's a creek that runs along the Barnersville Highway the whole way, and both sides, like many of the homes have private bridges that go into their driveway, into their home. Gone. All of them just gone. There's maybe 1 or 2 left standing. Mandala is good. Mandala State. I saw Rob in Barnersville at the little town center. They have a little rescue effort set up with supplies, and he said everything made it. He said at one point he was real nervous and had 1 foot in the creek and 1 foot on the sauna, and was like, "You shall not pass," and like just stood there with it, man. Stayed with it. Good energy up there, good people, and it maintained and stayed.
Wow.
But we got there to Mosaic Mountain Village, and we see John and Christica and Miles and their 2 roommates just sitting in their new front yard. It was such a, I don't know the right word. I want to say somber or humble, just seeing them sitting there in their yard looking at this devastation and this river just ripping through their front yard. It had destroyed tiny homes. I mean, their RV and camper and their whole yard. The earth was gone from it. There's a new riverbed there now. And we ended up hiking in and crossing the creek and getting over to them and just hugging and embracing each other and just sobbing. So, nothing really to say. Just looking in devastation and sadness. And then went back the next day, and we're able to see the beauty, like the new beauty of this place is amazing. Like what this river came through and did and created. It's really, really beautiful. The new landscape. And now we were out. We were without power for I think 5 days. We got power back Tuesday afternoon. Water is still out in all the city. Water service is still out.
You have
But
internet?
I have data on my phone today. It came up this afternoon, but no internet still.
Cell service is back.
Yeah, cell service is back. No
What
wire, no
about
Wi-Fi.
what about credit card and debit card and that kind of stuff?
So I used my debit cards at the gas station last night to fill up. I think that's coming back online, but that was one thing I was well prepared with was cash, and actually was giving people cash that didn't have any cash. They're like, I'll pay you back, and I'm not worried about that. Like in this situation, what does cash matter? What does money matter for that fact? So anyways, it seems like digital payments are coming back online.
So the main thing is
I've
going
been,
to be water. And
yeah,
also,
the water.
you said there's no trash service, and there won't be for a long time.
No, yeah, and you think about all the people's like refrigerator and freezer. Like I lost 70 pounds of meat, and it's in my trash can, and it's like just sitting there rotting. It's been in the mid 70s, and like the whole town. Like I rode my motorcycle yesterday through parts of Asheville and parts of West Asheville, and it's just rotten, just horrible to smell. And I don't know when trash service is going to pick back up. Um, Water, like the infrastructure for the water system was just ripped out, just all over everywhere. All these towns, Asheville, the reservoir that comes through Asheville. Um, and I spoke with Graham and Andrea that own Mother Earth today, this afternoon. I've been going out there and picking up food and bringing it to neighbors and people that need food. Um, and I was out there today, and I think something that's not really being spoken about is like the looting and the weird energy out here of people like taking. And so I was at Mother Earth at 5:30 this afternoon with Graham. He was giving me supplies and meats and veggies and food, and we hear like at least 20 rounds unload. Sounded like maybe an assault rifle or something. And this is in West Asheville. And I looked at him and I was like, have somebody target practicing? Like your neighbors? Is that like normal? He's like, no, like that hadn't happened in 7 days. And I offered to go with him to check it out. And he told me that um, their facility there is being guarded by military. Um, So I've heard the 82nd Airborne was deployed in downtown Asheville, setting up checkpoints and trying to keep the place safe. I've heard that a lot of people from out of town come in and like take advantage of people in these situations and already looting and stealing, stores and stripping out copper wire and copper pipes. And um, yeah, it's there's a lot of good things going on as well, but there's also that. And that has been something that I've worried about here at my house because I'm kind of right in the thick of it in Weaverville, across the street from 3 apartment buildings with, thousands of potentially hungry and desperate people. Um, and I had a generator and I had food and was really concerned. Leaving windows open at night. Um, I was just concerned, really on edge. It's been like I've been in survival mode and like not really able to sleep very soundly. Um, People driving like constantly, just making loops and just busy. It's been chaos. So I'm like physically, emotionally, spiritually drained and worn out, and just thankful to God that we're leaving town tomorrow. Um, and we're gonna regroup, kind of regain our center, get rested up, and come back and eventually try to help, repair and rebuild, whatever, just offer some kind of help. But I realize I'm in no shape to do that right now. Brian actually showed me that last night in our men's mastermind call. Just the stress of all this, wearing it every day feels like 3 or 4 days. Like you're up at 5:30 a.m. and by 10:30 you're like, oh my God, it's only 10:30. It feels like a day's already gone. Just going and checking on people. Um, preparing stuff around the house, even just going from my house to the truck to the basement. Like we were keeping every door locked, everything was only open. We were using keys to open, in and out, locked right behind, and looking for gas, moving food from freezers. And it's just been a nonstop from like 5:30 to 9:30, and then we get to 9:30 and it's just like, oh, we're so tired, and ready for sleep. But one of the I want to share some blessings now. If
Let's
that's
pause. Let's pause. We'll get to the blessings. I want to get
okay.
Anthony in here and share his perspective. And I don't think I mentioned, a lot of you already know this, but I lived in Asheville from 2011 to last year, 2023. So a very connected community there. We've been doing breathworks like most every month since then. And we usually are in there like once a week for various reasons. So very connected to that area there, all the different towns. But yeah, Arnie's in or is living in the Augusta, Georgia area, which also apparently got hit really hard. So why don't you give us a quick report? And he's in he made it to the coast, South Carolina coast. But yeah, tell us what's going on there, Arnie.
You talking to me? Well, Jacob and y'all make it what happened to me like nothing. It sounds horrible what happened in Asheville, but I live right off of a federal hydroelectric reservoir lake, kind of out in suburbia amongst a bunch of woods and lakes and pines. And dumb old me, I didn't really prepare for the storm, but I didn't fill up my car and I didn't have all the food and goods and services. But anyway, at 3 a.m., well, Friday morning, storm came by, and I live with just this dog here, and the house started shaking, and the leaves, and I mean the trees, and started hitting the house, and kind of the house was shaking and stuff, and it was pretty bad. But I woke up, the house was all right, but the trees and the power and the water. Uh, from my house all the way to the smallest town, we're covering every road inside and out. Uh, I got up and walked out on the highways, and there were some other guys in pickup trucks cutting out pieces of, logs full with power lines that were dead, hopefully, trying to make a way out to the small town. It took us a day and a half to clear a way to dead there. No gas, no power, no ATMs, no cash, no food. So I had like a quarter tank to go 40 miles into Augusta, which is where I'm actually really from. And I just took a chance that I would make it. And for the 40-mile drive, it was just mass destruction. And we didn't have the flooding like y'all did because we're on flat land more so, but it was also the hydroelectric power company had let most of the water out of the big 71,000 acre lake out. But when I drove by it, it was pretty much 3/4 full of water. But I got to Augusta, like the Augusta night, I didn't. There was no power. There's still no power. North Augusta, no ATMs. They still don't have anything. And I have a Sprinter RV van, and it was stored in an open farm field, kind of in North Augusta, not far from across the river from Georgia. And I had to climb a bunch of trees to get to the farm field, and I spent the night. Luckily, some farmers helped me clear the road to get my RV out. And I did stop by and try to help some friends that were, I knew that had no power and no food, but I'd go to the grocery stores; they were all closed, and the only thing I could get for them was Magic Market, like convenience store stuff. And the sad thing is, I got a call. We didn't really have much cell service, but I got a call that a good friend of mine's wife lived in the neighborhood I grew up in, and they had an 80-year-old pine tree that, and right when the storm came, the pine tree fell on his wife and his dog and her dog while they were in their bed. I hate to say that they're no longer with us, and I guess about you never hear about Augusta, Georgia, but there are about 30 to 40 people that have passed away from the storm down there. Okay. It's done, and I guess Will, you're making me feel kind of guilty. I got in my RV and I headed to West Columbia, and there wasn't any gas, but I'm in a diesel. Unfortunately, there was diesel that I filled up, and I called this park right on the beach, right south, I think, of where Jacob's going in Merle's Inlet. I'm in Huntington Beach State Park, and I guess I was blessed and fortunate that they had a vacancy, a cancellation for like a week, right at the point in time that I'd given them a call. So, but Augusta's still without power and still without much cell service, and I've seen pictures and whatever, but it's nothing like the horror that Jacob and Will was describing up there.
Glad you're
But
safe.
but like life is normal here.
Yeah, life is normal here too, whatever normal is. But
Yes, whatever normal is.
if anybody
It's
has,
kind of weird.
Annie has our friend Sarah Poe, who was on here a couple weeks ago. I think she's doing a charity to support efforts in the region. Maybe Annie, you could put that link in the text box. But with that said, let's kind of transition into kind of a deeper dive into like what's going on, what's happening, why is it happening, what do we do about it, how do we look at things mentally, emotionally, spiritually, kind of get into that component, and then maybe we can get into some physical things to do physically and practically as well. But I'll just start off with sharing. Oh, before we do that, I wanted to ask one thing. Jackie, if you can unmute, I just wanted to ask you about your house, your cabin in West North Carolina, and how that's doing.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
So it still doesn't have power, but one side of the mountain, Rutherford Electric, does have power up. We're just waiting for Duke on our side. But I lost two little trees, and other than that, so far as I know, everything is okay. So um my only challenge is just very minor. I was waiting for them to cancel. And as soon as they canceled, some tree company booked through Airbnb. And you wouldn't believe how these agencies are. They're like, they want me to pay for canceling. And well, why did you have to cancel? And I literally got this email that says, well, now that the event is over. And I'm like, what? The event is not over. Like, oh my God. I said, okay, this is a natural disaster of I can't even say it, apocalyptic proportions, but it's over. Like, really? So, but I mean, I have minor problems. I don't live there. I don't need it. I'm just waiting for it to come back online, and maybe hopefully somebody that's been displaced can use it. So anyway.
Very glad the house is okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so yeah, the one thing that always I think is always important to remember, a couple like spiritual truths that are always important to keep in mind. The only constant is change, and this too shall pass, right? And it's like sometimes most times the change is very slow, very slow. Barely even notice it. It's so slow. Maybe even bored because it's so slow. Sometimes the change is like boom, fast, super fast, boom, and all this stuff happens really quickly, you know. And it's just, I think it's just so important to like live in that consciousness, you know, that like everything that we're experiencing is is temporary and is not going to last. Nothing in this material world is going to last. Nothing in this physical world is going to last. Everything that we're seeing, everything that we're experiencing is continuously changing. It doesn't, it's never even the same for a moment. You know, it's continuously changing and and it won't be here at all. Um, so that may sound like depressing, but it's only depressing if you're attached to the things that aren't going to be here anymore. So I think like the spiritual practice is like living in the truth, right? Jesus said the truth will set you free. Well, it's like, well, what's the truth? Well, that's the truth. That's the truth that will set you free, is like living in that space. Now, it may sound like, well, that means that you won't be compassionate or caring, but I actually think it's the opposite. It makes you more available to be supportive of others. It makes you more available to be present for others. It makes you more available to be loving for others because um, you're free inside, right? It's like if you care about the world, if you care about other people, you're going to make it a priority to access that place of inner peace and stillness and groundedness as best you can, right? And if you can't access it, then ask for help, right? So have the vulnerability to ask for help for someone else to help you to get there. And you know, we take care of each other. What's that song? Lean on me when you're not strong, right? So it's okay if you're not there, but it's important to do the practices every day, to practice meditation, praying, you know, connecting with the right people, the right mentors, the right support, reading the right books, tuning into the right podcasts. It's almost like you're like, it's almost like a professional, like a professional football player is like practicing, you know, every day, and then one day they get to the Super Bowl, and it's like now it's time to like let your gift shine. It's kind of like that. It's like it's practicing every day, and like, you know, when the big moment comes, you're prepared. Now, when people think about being prepared, they think about being prepared physically. You know, do I have all the food and that stuff is obviously it's important, right? And we could talk about that more. But I just noticed people don't think about as much about being prepared internally. You know, being prepared in your consciousness, being prepared um, spiritually, and that's the most important place to be prepared. You know, I was talking with I don't know if Jacob said it directly, but I was talking with him earlier, and he was saying about how he just felt like he was getting this guidance here and getting this guidance there, and didn't know why he was being led in these different directions. We talked last week about following your inner guidance, you know, and when you have that relationship, that spiritual connection, you get guidance. You know, you get guidance to what to do. Like you don't have to necessarily know as much in advance because if you're present in the moment, the guidance will come to you in the moment of which way to go, which way to navigate, and then you can be potentially supportive to other people. You know, talking to Will a couple of days ago, and I was thinking, you know, I was kind of feeling into like, should I go in physically and try to help? You know, does anybody need anything? And he said to me something like, I think you're helping a lot just by emanating the peace to people, you know? And I think that that is true. And that gets overlooked, the value of that, because like what Jacob's talking about with like the, you know, you're kind of hearing two stories. You're hearing like um, the looting dimension of reality, and you're hearing like the peace and loving and caring for each other dimension of reality. And the people that are in like the looting dimension, they don't have that peace. They don't have that stillness. They're in a frantic, you know, dog eat dog survival consciousness. And so if you're in that consciousness, you're going to be in that world, you know, um, and that's not a good world to be in. Um, but if you can access that inner peace, that inner stillness, um, and I guess when I say that this too shall pass and the only constant is change, it's really important to acknowledge that there is something that doesn't change. So everything in the world of form, everything in the world of time and space is continuously changing, but there is something that doesn't change, and it's that which has no form. that which has no form doesn't change, right? And that which has no form is the essence of who and what we truly are. That's our spiritual essence. That's our spiritual awakening. The essence to who and what we truly are, which has no form, you know? And then, you know, we talked here before about who is God? What is God? Well, God has no form. God is the infinite. God is that which is beyond time and space and included in time and space. So it's the transcendent and is immanent. And when we recognize that the essence of who we truly are is beyond form, and the essence of what God is beyond form, then that's where the communion between us and God comes into being, because there's the recognition and realization that we are eternal, timeless, spiritual beings that is the created emanation of God. And so that's the key to the whole thing, really, is like you can recognize that the essence of who you are is timeless and eternal. And it's beyond thoughts that come and go, feelings that come and go, physical sensations that come and go, experiences that come and go. Then you can access that place of inner peace and stillness, and you can access the creative intelligence, the divine guidance, the divine intuition, God's guidance in the moment, in a way that you can't if you're closed down and you're contracting, you're constricted, and you're in an anxious state. You know, you're in a fear-based consciousness. So it's just important to state that, because these are things that they don't talk about on the nightly news, you know. So these are things that are important to support each other, to deepen in. Someone may be listening and be like, "Oh, where I am, it's fine. There's no problem." But in a few weeks, it could be different, you know. So just being mindful, kind of like learning the lessons now. Another thing that we've talked a lot about in the Telegram group, we've talked a lot about in the communities that I've been a part of, conversations I've been a part of, is the I think we've really been questioning if the so-called technological advances of the past 150 years have been a positive thing. And I've come to the conclusion that they have not been a positive thing. They've been a negative thing. So I don't think this is a good way to remove yourself from technology at all. So I'm not saying this is a good thing that's happened, but talking again to Jacob, other people, there is this kind of a situation of like, oh, now we're like having human to human contact. Now we're playing board games. Now we're outside, you know, in the yard, watching the trees and the clouds, and we're having actual conversations with people over dinner, and people are talking to each other. People are touching each other. Oh my God, they're hugging each other, you know. Like people are so deprived of like touch and connection, and people live alone and they don't have this kind of connection. And so this is like, I think from what I'm hearing, people are realizing that, wow, we kind of lost something, and there is actually there is something that's a better way of living in this that's happening. Jacob has a. You want to talk about Hayden? I think it's a pretty amazing what's happened with Hayden.
Absolutely. So this will be one of the blessings, one of the many blessings that I'm like opening up to and seeing like every day, seeing new blessings from this whole thing. But Hayden, we have a 14-year-old son, and he's a gamer. You know, he's got his computer and his PlayStation and all that stuff, and he's spent so much time over his life in his room on a computer on a game. And Haley and I together just recently have started trying to shift that, and not really knowing how to do that, how to implement change for that.
Yeah,
And
I'd say it's pretty safe to say it's a gaming addiction.
yeah, for sure, gaming addiction. And so this gift came, and power was shut off for over 5 days. And it was like we didn't have to look for how do we do it. It just happened. And same thing with Scarlett, our little 8-year-old. She's not so much into the games, but you know, we've been playing Uno every night, like several rounds of it, and just laughing and connecting. And Haley's birthday was Tuesday, And we played extra Uno, and Scarlett, our little 8-year-old, kept winning, and she would get like sad and start crying like, oh, I want mom to win on her birthday. And it's just been a next level of connection, that we didn't have to physically change anything. It was just a gift given to us. Like, here you go. Now, what do you do now with this? What do you do now with no power? We didn't have cell phone service. We didn't have the ability to call or text anyone for over 2 days here in Asheville. So everything was just dark. Nobody knew anything except for what was going on here at our house and our neighbors, and driving to different places to see and check on people. And I think it really illuminated a new way forward, like a new way of connecting as a family, a new way of like things that we're doing. That we still don't have internet, so he's still not able to get on his games and do that stuff. He's very creative, so he has, since power's been back on, he's been drawing and getting real creative with drawing on his computer and doing animations, and
Spending more time with you guys.
spending a lot more time with us. Scarlett actually started crying when the power came back on. We were getting ready to cook dinner. We've been cooking on the grill and a little camper stove that I have. And she started crying, like she was upset. She's like, no, I want the power to go back off. And like the second day in, Haley had this great idea. Like, I think we should do this like once a week. Just flip the main breaker off and, have oil lamps and cook on the grill or the camp stove, and lights out, and just tell stories and connect. And so it's been a great new illumination for a good way forward, to connect with each other more, and less technology, less TV, less phones, while we're here together.
Yeah, I had this really clear feeling, this clear like sense, guidance that as we awaken more spiritually, we'll be living a more low tech existence, more
For sure.
face-to-face human community, more nature, more yeah. I see that future, and I don't know how we get there. Like maybe it's a nice, smooth, gentle journey there. Maybe it's not, right? But it could be something that's just conscious and intentional, and that people are just choosing to live in community in that way. So yeah, that was a lot of confirmation with the stories I've been hearing about that connection. And I had that experience in my life too, in situations where the power's been out for a while, and it's like, oh my God, we're just like having conversations again and talking to each other, and getting to know our neighbors in ways we never did before, and playing games together. And um, yeah, I think that's a powerful realization. Um, and then the other part of it is, when you're having difficult times, it makes you appreciate the small things, right? It makes you appreciate what's important too. It makes you appreciate the people in your life, and so the idea of like everything, or not the idea, but the realization that everything is temporary, that everything is passing, that everything is going to disappear at some point, not knowing when. It could be tomorrow, it could be in 50 years, it could be, whatever it is, right? But it makes me actually appreciate when I'm in that conscious, it makes me appreciate everyone and everything so much more, because it's not guaranteed in the future. There is no future moment that's guaranteed. And so it makes you love everybody and everything, and hold it so much more tenderly, and appreciate it, because it's not something that's guaranteed. I think we've lived in a culture that's just kind of assumes that, because things have been pretty, stable for us in our lifetimes. But that's not the case, So I think that appreciation really is something that really is valuable, that comes to the surface. One last point I want to make, and then I'll turn over to you guys, which is that this is kind of like maybe like a I don't know, what do you call it? Like a tough pill to swallow or something for some people. But I just don't think like in West North Carolina, I think it's over. Like I don't think you're not gonna be able to go back to the way it was before. It's almost like a chapter is ended and something new will begin. And something new could be beautiful. You know, it can certainly be beautiful. Um, but this is one of the things in life too, is like you can never go back to the past. And again, usually it's very gradual and subtle, so it's not really noticeable. But this is one of those moments where it's like it's going to be noticeable, right? Of like this place that we knew is not there anymore. You know, some of it is, but a lot of it's not. And will it be rebuilt? Yeah, it will be rebuilt, but it will be, but something new will be rebuilt, you know? So it's just really important instead of like trying to hang on to the past, to be able to create the future, co-create the future with others, you know? And Charles Eisenstein has this saying like, create a more beautiful world, right? So out of the clearing, there's some reason that there was a clearing. And out of the clearing, there's an opportunity for the new to be created. Now, this could be like a clearing in a relationship. This could be a clearing in like losing your job. This could be a clearing in losing a friendship. This could be the clearing in losing, you know, um, some possession you have. And then there's more kind of significant things like losing your home, losing your town. Um, you know, so it goes from the minor to the major, right? But if whether it's minor or major, it's the same truth of like the opening has happened to for a reason, to create something more beautiful, to create something from a higher evolutionary order of consciousness. And if we just can live in a way where we trust that, you know, if we can just live in a way where we trust that. And I mean, it's like then you start to see the miracles. The miracles are available to us. Like the magic is available to us. The divine synchronicities and the things that are here to support us and open us up to new levels, new doorways, new gateways that are here for us, you know. But so often we're just like, no, it shouldn't be this way. It should be the way it used to be, right? And we get caught in that. And sometimes it's hard to do that than other times, right? There's definitely situations where it's hard to just be like, to just trust that things are happening the way they're supposed to happen. But if we can do that, then we can flow and we can be of service and benefit to others, you know, because we're available to be a clear channel for God to flow through us. So it's almost like if we're available to the miracles around us, we're available to the miracles to flow through us as well, because we're not in a state of resistance. State of resistance is like when it's like it shouldn't be this way, then we're closed. You know, when we're closed, nothing can get in. And so when we're open, open is like humble, like not my will, God's will, right? That's kind of how you sum it up. Not my will, God's will. So I'm open to God's will, and then I like Will as a reader of the Course in Miracles, and I like to think of that word in two different ways. A Course in Miracles is like you're studying a course like a college course. You're studying this course and you're learning about miracles. But I can think of it. Think of it a different way, which as well, which is you are a course in miracles. So the miracles move through the course. You know, you're the course in which the miracles move through. And so as you learn, you become the course in miracles yourself. I think that's a powerful way to think of it as well. Okay, Jackie's got her hand up. So please share, Jackie. And then whoever else wants to share, it's open for them to share.
Hey, am I unmuted for a minute?
Muted.
I'm unmuted. So I guess part of when you were talking about, you know, the old is gone.
Yeah.
It just, I've been looking at pictures of like some of the roads that have crumbled and things. And I thought, and I'm thinking, and yet you see people rebuilding. When they rebuild it, it's a dirt road. Like maybe there's two extremes of recovery. One is like take it back to more basic so that it's more resilient. You know, if you don't have 4 feet of tarmac on something, it doesn't crack. It's just a dirt road and it, you know, maybe still there. But the other extreme is how do you rebuild and not rebuild it the way that it was, rebuild it in a much more resilient way. I mean, Asheville has flooded before, Marshall has flooded before, and we just ignore the infrastructure rather than actually fixing it and so forth. So I hope we learn at a really high government level how to not build it back the way that it was. And so anyway, that was just kind of my
Yeah, I think you bring up an important point, which is like, I don't know if I even made that part clear, but it's like learn the lessons, whatever the lessons are. What are the lessons? And then move forward with the lessons. So you're creating the new, you're creating with the lessons learned. And
even with connecting with people, like how could it have taken a week? I mean, we still don't know where everybody is. I mean, I don't feel like nobody even knows who's supposed to be where. I mean, that's just incredible that we just don't know. And that there hasn't been like house to house searches didn't start 5 days ago instead of, I don't even know that they're really happening
I go
now.
even like deeper. Like I think that this goes back to the technology thing, right? Like we've been living in a way that people are so isolated and they're just like using their phones and they don't have any human contact with people, that once the phones go out, the internet goes out, it's like, they don't have that immediate human connection to get support, which is not good. I mean, I think this is kind of one of the realizations is like kind of moving forward into like real living community.
Yeah, and people thinking like I've heard a few posts where, oh, the gate to the Airbnb is like 6 miles away, and I'm like, but you're young. 6 miles is 6 miles. Like I would go walk to find people. We've become a little bit helpless to just freeze in place versus being maybe resilient, like Will says, build a fire, bury your poop,
And when
move.
when I was talking about creating the future in this new place too, I'm talking yeah, there's the physical component of like rebuilding a town that's been destroyed in a new way, but then there's like one's personal life, like it's like a moment to kind of like, I'm always asking my clients this question, like if anything's possible, what do you want to create? What do you call it to create in these 10 areas of your life, all these fundamental areas of your life? And like these kind of moments are the moments where like, it becomes a casual question to like a really very living real question of like, okay, well now I really do need to ask, like, I can't go back to the old, but let's say for example, my house is gone, right? I can't go back to my house. So now what it really am I called to create going forward? Where am I called to live? Who am I called to be in a relationship with? How am I called to take care of myself? What kind of lifestyle am I called to live? What kind of work am I called to have? What kind of spiritual relationship am I called to have? Etc. So it's like to be able to be in that space of creating the future, and really feeling into what are you called to create and being open to listen to what that is. Feels always it's always the truth, but it's especially true when you're in these kind of major cataclysmic, excuse me, transition points. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? Anybody have a question or a comment or a reflection?
Hi guys.
Darian, is that you?
Yeah.
Hey, Darian's here.
Hi. Yeah, I don't really have much to share just besides like gratitude for everyone who is there and feeling called to help and
Where are you, Darian?
I'm in Maryland. I came back
Were you there during the storm?
I was, thank goodness.
Darian lives in Nashville, at least part-time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I came up Monday evening or Wednesday evening when it started raining, and I don't think anyone had any idea the magnitude of what was about to come. And I've been really torn about like going going back, when to go back. So yeah, I just wanted to like really thank the people who are feeling the call, to serve and help. Yeah, just like thank you so much for doing what you can, and I'll be there. I'll help when I'm able. But yeah, we all have different callings, so
I think that it's this is my opinion, and
yeah,
I think it's helpful not to be there. Like as much as it's helpful to be there, it's also helpful not to be there. But that does that
yeah,
make
exactly.
like if you have a specific thing that you can do that can help people, if you're like a you're a master at chainsawing trees and stuff, or like there's definitely skills that are needed, right?
Yeah,
But no, I think it's that would be my advice. I told Jacob that, you know,
Yeah.
I don't think it's like helping just to be an additional person in a catastrophic zone, I don't think that that's a helpful.
Yeah.
exactly. And like using the resources, but
Yeah,
another part of
exactly.
me is like, you live there, some that people need to be present, like, feet on land, and
Yeah.
God's just not putting it on my heart. And I just have to like surrender that.
Yeah. And another friend sent me a message
It's like a guilt.
as far as like how to help. And it's kind of changing now because I think the internet is coming back online, I think, as far as I can tell. But anyway, she was like, you're valuable because you have access to internet and you can get all the information that they don't have.
Yes.
You're valuable in that way to help support from the outside.
Yes. Lots of connecting dots for people and
Yeah.
going on the forums, and yeah, what a community.
Yeah. And he says, the city is asking you not to drive around the area if you absolutely don't have to. Yeah, exactly.
See, exactly.
We had
Yeah.
we had a breath work that was scheduled for Boone, North Carolina, next weekend, and the host told us that people actually aren't even allowed to go into Boone. It's like
Yeah.
against some ordinance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So there are organizations here that are like mobilizing and setting up and preparing to do all the stuff. So everybody's hopefully going to be getting what they need and getting taken care of or getting out. Like I know I've heard that
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't. Another thing, we didn't know anything. We didn't see the news. We didn't know what was going on in Old Fort or anywhere else other than what was being relayed in face-to-face conversations with people.
yeah,
And yeah, just trusting, that all the things are coming together and all the professionals are coming together, and all the people are getting out that are reliant on water. Like we have running water here because I have a well, and
Mm.
electricity now. But anybody on municipal like services, water, is going to be months. And like, how do you flush your toilets? How do you wash yourself? How do you
how do you drink
clean?
water?
I mean, I don't condone drinking the city water anyways, but I guess many people rely on that. And how do they drink water? It's not a place to be, not a place to be living right now, even. So,
Agreed. Yeah.
and don't feel guilty about not being here and helping out. Like I know probably a lot of people are feeling that. Arnie, you mentioned that too. Like, um, don't feel guilty because there are people that are here taking care of other people. Like out in Barnersville, something I didn't really talk much about, but the community out there, um, is totally different vibe than Weaverville here at my house with all these people that are not from here. Um, I'm on edge and feeling like survival and I have to like protect my stuff from being taken. Out in Barnersville, it's people hugging and sharing and all bringing together all of their stuff to help support everybody. So it's like everybody's bringing something and nobody's just coming to take. So that's crucial, I think, in community and like who is going to be who does the community consist of? Is people like that bring stuff to offer and to give and don't just show up.
I know out there, like they've been cultivating those relationships for a long time, and that's the one thing I noticed is the difference too, is when you're, and that's what I feel like we're doing here, right? So
Yeah.
when you're cultivating relationships over a period of like weeks and months and years and decades, um, there's just going to be a natural trust that's there, and a natural cohesion that's there because you already been through it, you know? That's the thing about like really solid um long-term relationships is like you do have challenges, and if you've been around for a while, you've already had some challenges that you've like been through together, and so that trust, I think, and also communication, like knowing how to communicate with each other consciously. That's something that is a skill that people practice together. All these things, are, I think that's kind of the difference, right? So just keep in mind. And then I think the most important relationship of trust is the spiritual connection. That's the
Amen.
trust. Amen.
Amen.
You have a community that has the spiritual connection together, like we do. We'll make it through.
It helps a lot.
I'm saying, we'll make it through.
Yep.
Anybody else want to share anything?
I have a question. So I'm far removed from Asheville and that whole area. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. So we got some heavy rain here, but I don't actually know how severe it was because I was out of town when it happened. But I've been out to Asheville and Black Mountain area, and I'm just kind of curious as to how the Black Mountain area fared.
That's a good question.
Pardon,
Yeah,
pardon
I've been wondering about that too. I've heard. You know anything, Will, about Black Mountain Montreat or Jacob?
Will might know more. I heard that a dam was breached and broke, and I don't know much else about that.
Okay.
You're
I was,
muted,
I
Will.
was just curious because having been out there a couple years ago for the retreat.
Yeah, and our retreat is scheduled there for New Year's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Too.
Christmont, I'm pretty sure took a beating. They were right in the like power punch of the storm, kind of, and so I'm sure a ton of trees are down. I don't think I heard like a lot of rumors of small dams breaking, but I haven't had any like confirmation. Like I know Montreat's did not, but there are. I drove through the middle of Black Mountain on Monday, and it actually looked relatively unscathed, like up
That's my sense
above.
too.
What's
Yeah,
that?
that's my sense too. Jordan and Vanessa Hall, they live in downtown Black Mountain, and Andrew Hewitt lives in downtown Black Mountain, and apparently their houses are fine, and they're fine.
They're a little further down where the Swannanoa River, which is really pretty much just a creek in Black Mountain, but
Yeah.
it picks up steam like when it gets to North Fork, which flows down from Mount Mitchell, which is like the wall there that like held the storm, and it just like there's so much water. They were saying biblical, but it's really like 1,000 year probability that they were estimating that that much water could come. But it is a natural occurrence. Hurricanes can carry that much water. We just have been encroaching on the floodplain for a long, long time, and it's so a lot of houses in Swannanoa were washed
Yeah,
away in
Will was making
communities.
that point. Will was telling me that go into that more, like how they've been building on the floodplain and kind of taking risks and chances with that.
Well, it's just humans live on average like 100 years. We have these events are possible. Like the reason that land would be flat in the mountain. Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie. Yeah, Swannanoa really got punched. But like any amount of flat land in the valleys of mountains means that water is carving that. And so you could even be far away from the river potentially, and maybe even up 10 feet. But you can kind of see where the land really distinctly rises, versus what is kind of carved out by water. And anywhere that, you know, just looking like the geologic time is so different. So on that level, these hurricanes are what make the mountains so sacred in a lot of ways, what carve the gorges and, dump tons of carbon and rain to allow the biodiversity to happen. So that's also one of the paradoxical qualities of we all love this nature. That's why we're there. And here it is as destroyed. a lot of communities. So, in terms of holding that, I think it's just part of this world, like Brian was mentioning. But it's something to understand and not being naive. And I do think that there'll be a lot of uh, good indigenous ancient wisdom and futuristic vision in terms of rebuilding in such a way that at least keeps us off the 500-year event. Also, I do feel like these rain events may start occurring more. So, it's something that I think a lot of people are going to be aware of and not, put themselves in as much danger. But it's just hard. We forget, we have short memories. It's like as easy as one generation, they say we could lose freedom. It's because if you're born in a different headset and have a different set of beliefs, you could kind of exist in a different reality, so to speak. So somebody who witnessed that big a flood, they would say far away, but somebody else would be like, oh, it won't happen to me. But that's just a part of human nature. I hope we can study and avoid some of those mistakes. But anyhow.
All right, I think we'll start to wrap it up. I just want to say, really appreciate your life. Really appreciate the people in your life. Don't take them for granted. Don't take where you live for granted. Really make your spiritual connection, communion a priority. So, so you're grounded in that, regardless of what happens, what arises, what circumstances arise in your life, and deepen community connections. I mean, there's a reason why we're a circle, right? And we're connecting as a circle because we're deepening in community, and we're deepening in spiritual connection and community. So, making the relationships a priority, making that sense of community a priority, and being able to have connections where we take care of each other and support each other, and that's on every level. That's physically, but that's also like emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. Take care of each other and support each other. Yeah, I think that's it. There's love and appreciation for y'all, and see you next Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all.
Peace.